Hello everyone, welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Mike.
I'm Rainbow.
And we're still learning about why do people in some countries drive on the left side of the road.
True.
Yeah, we've learned a little bit about the history of all of this culture, this driving on the different sides and why we do it and all that stuff. Today, we're going to be learning about why even now, with cars around the world being, kind of the same, people drive Toyotas and Hondas in all the different countries of the world, but we still drive on different sides depending on where you're going.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the difference between driving on the two different sides and how difficult is it to adjust when you travel to another country? What to look out for?
Yeah, I've only done that once, and I was honestly quite nervous. I'm from Canada, America, Taiwan. We all drive on the right. So for me, driving in Taiwan or America, I've done it before. It's not a problem. But in England, which like Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, they drive on the left. I had to drive from the south of England all the way up to Scotland. It was like a 3-day drive. I was quite nervous.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I was quite nervous. So I asked some British people for some tips. I kind of imagined, okay, if I'm going to turn left, I'm going to go in that way and not that way. And, I was trying to sort of imagine it. And it actually wasn't hard, but you always had to pay attention. I remember it was only on the third day of the trip that I felt safe enough to say to my wife, let's listen to the radio.
You're like, I gotta focus.
Because the first 2 days I was like, I want no sound, don't talk to me unless it's important. I gotta pay attention and all that stuff. But really that's a smart thing to do if you're in a new country, driving a car that you rented. It's not my car. I don't want to crash. But yeah, no, it was definitely something where I was paying a lot more attention than if I was just driving around my own home city, because it's all different. It's like doing everything in a mirror. So we're going to be learning about that kind of thing and why we still have to do this sort of thing as we travel and drive in different countries in the world. So let's learn about it in the article.
In the 1800s, it became law in Britain to drive on the left. In France, Napoleon chose the right. In each country's colonies, people drove on their ruler's preferred side. Therefore, former British colonies such as Australia, New Zealand, and India drive on the left, and French colonies drive on the right. In Japan, left-side driving goes back to the country's first trains. A British company completed Japan's first railway in 1872, so trains ran on the left. Streetcars and automobiles soon followed.
All right, so yes, the article, why do people in some countries drive on the left side of the road? And of course, that would mean places like Britain and Japan, right? They drive on the left side of the road. Here in Taiwan, America, they drive on the right side of the road. So yeah, we're kind of asking, why do they have different systems in different countries? Well, let's get into it. It says in the 1800s, it became law in Britain to drive on the left. Wow, so maybe this is one of the first rules about this. Before it was just sort of the local custom, the local habit, but in Britain they made it law to drive on the left. But notice that was in the 1800s. This is still before the invention of the car. So we're still talking about horses and wagons and stuff like that. But then in France, just over there, and remember England and France have not been friends for many, many years at that period. In France, Napoleon chose the right.
Is it to be different?
Maybe it's to be different.
I don't want to be
no,
Britain.
Exactly, I don't want to be like les Anglais. And then in each country's colonies, people drove on their ruler's preferred side. Of course, at that time, the British Empire had many colonies around the world. The French Empire had colonies in Africa and in the West Indies. And so in these colonies, basically they copied the ruling country's laws and customs and rules and things like that. Because a colony is a foreign country that is controlled by another country in some way. Usually colonies were set up when a powerful country moves into a country where there aren't many people or the people don't have a big army. Those people have land or resources that the powerful country wants, and they kind of say, yeah, we're kind of taking over your country, and you will become part of our country. We'll take care of you, but we'll get stuff from you guys. And of course, this was kind of an unfair political situation in the world for a long, long time. But yes, European countries especially had colonies in Africa and South America and places like that. Let's look at our example sentence. There could one day be a space colony on the moon.
Elon Musk.
So this would be a small community of people that are living in a very wild country, maybe the first people to live there, or a wild new planet or satellite like the moon.
Therefore, former British colonies such as Australia, New Zealand, and India drive on the left, and French colonies drive on the right. That explains Hong Kong and Singapore.
That does explain Hong Kong and Singapore, and maybe if you went to the Ivory Coast or colonies that France used to control even today, they might still drive on the same side as they do in France.
Yes, so we have this connecting word therefore. Therefore can come between two ideas or in the beginning of an idea which explains a reason. It basically means because or as a result. This is an adverb. So I have an example sentence for you. You are not being charged with anything. Therefore, you are free to leave. So it's you are not charged. We haven't found you to have any problems, so you can go. So therefore is the effect in the cause and effect.
Okay, so because of that, this other thing will happen.
Yeah.
All right, very interesting. Now, that's an interesting country, Japan. In Japan, it says left side driving goes back to the country's first trains.
Interesting.
Because, of course, Japan was not a colony of Britain, so that's not the reason they drive on the same side as the British, but there is a connection between these countries. A British company completed Japan's first railway in 1872, so trains ran on the left like they do in Britain, and streetcars and automobiles soon followed. And especially at that period, I think the British Empire was the most powerful empire in the world. I think the Japanese really kind of admired them. So a lot of the things the British were doing, from their cars to their trains and other stuff like that, the Japanese just kind of copied because it worked for them too. So they ended up driving on the same side. So a British person visiting Japan or a Japanese person visiting Britain or Australia would have no problem. Everything would be on the same side.
Yes, automobiles here, we talk about them in comparison with streetcars. They can be another word to describe cars or buses, things that move on the street. You walk in or you sit down and you go from one place to another place. I just watched a video on the history of automobiles, all about where all these cars, all these buses, all these vans came from. Those are automobiles.
That's right. All right. So let's take a break and then we'll be back to find out more about why we're driving, where we're driving, and who decided this, and when and why, and all that after the break.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。我们继续来看看文章，看看为什么有些国家的人他们开车呢是在道路的左侧行驶呢？好，在19世纪，靠左行驶呢在英国成为法律。那在法国，拿破仑则是选择了右侧，不知道他是不是故意要跟英国唱反调的。好，那么在英法两国的殖民地，人们就会以统治者的偏好来选择那一侧行驶。因此呢，前英国殖民地像是澳洲、纽西兰、印度，他们就是靠左侧行驶；法国的殖民地就是靠右侧行驶。来看单字 therefore， 这个副词表示因此、因而、所以。那么 colony 是指殖民地。谈到过去的殖民历史 ，Mike 老师用到一个形容词叫 unfair，unfair 就是不公平的、不公正的。好，那课文接着写到说，在日本啊，他们这个靠左侧驾驶呢，是可以追溯到他们最早的火车年代。在1872年，一家英国公司完成了日本的第一条铁路，所以火车就是靠左行驶。那不久之后呢，有轨电车和汽车也跟着仿效了。我们来看到 automobile， 它是指汽车 ；streetcar 则是指有轨电车。介华课文中。
In 1908, Henry Ford's Model T changed everything. To help passengers exit onto sidewalks more easily, the car's driver's seat was placed on the left, and the car was driven on the right-hand side of the road. Countries such as Canada, Italy, and Spain soon adopted right-side driving. Sweden began driving on the right quite late, in 1967, at a cost of $120 million. Once a driving side is chosen, people get used to the choice. As we can see in countries like Sweden, it's very difficult and expensive to change sides after too much time has passed.
All right, so yes, cars were starting to come along when they started to have these rules about where to drive. But the early cars were not really useful. They didn't run very well. They weren't comfortable. But of course, all that changed about 100 years ago. It says in 1908, Henry Ford's Model T changed everything. The Model T was the iPhone of cars. Suddenly it was useful. Everyone could afford one. Everyone needed one. So a lot more people were driving. And of course, with more people driving, you need more rules because there's more chances of accidents. So the Model T Ford really changed everything and made the whole world into a world of cars and drivers. To help passengers exit onto sidewalks more easily, the car's driver's seat was placed on the left and the car was driven on the right-hand side of the road. This is easy. Just imagine a car today. You're getting out of a car, maybe a taxi. What side do you get out? You get out that side because it's near the sidewalk. It's not out in the road. The driver's here, the passengers are here. That's the safe side. You've done that in Taiwan where you try to get out that side if you're two people in a taxi. And the taxi driver is always like, no, open the door.
It's dangerous.
Over there.
You're going to die.
A bus will hit you and rip off my door. You got to get out on that side. Because for passengers, it's much safer for them to exit the car on the right side because that's off the road on the sidewalk. And a passenger is someone who is riding in a machine of some kind. They're not driving it. They're just sitting there. They're being moved from a place to a place. If you're the bus driver, you're driving the bus. If you paid to get on the bus and you're standing or sitting, you are a passenger, like the people sitting in the plane at the back, not flying the plane. Or if you're sitting next to the driver in the back seat of a car, but you're not driving, you are a passenger. For example, the other two passengers on the bus are asleep.
And here we have the word exit. Here, exit is a verb that means to leave a place. So enter, to come in, exit, to go out. Exit can also be a noun. That would be the place that you leave from. In this case, it's the action. The fire alarm began to sound, so we quickly exited the building. Everybody quickly left the building, got out as soon as possible through the exit, which is the noun.
There you go. All right, so that's where we started to get these rules. And of course, as cars started to spread around the world, rules started to follow to keep people safe. So then we read
countries such as Canada, Italy, and Spain soon adopted right-side driving. Sweden began driving on the right quite late in 1967 at a cost of $120 million. That's very expensive. I wonder why. Once a driving side is chosen, people get used to the choice. So everybody just follows the rules.
That's right. A few countries have done this. Suddenly they decide to switch what side people are driving on. Of course,
it's expensive.
It can be expensive, it can be confusing, it can cause accidents, but there's often a reason why they've chosen. I think Canada, for example, we were a British colony, but we don't drive on the British side. We copied the Americans, probably because Americans were making cars.
Oh, yeah.
And they can just send them to Canada and then we drive them. We don't have to have it go different. Oh, it's just complicated when things are different like that. But as the article continues, we read, as we can see in countries like Sweden, it's very difficult and expensive to change sides after too much time has passed. And I think a lot of drivers in the country would be like, what? Why? That's going to cause so much trouble. You have to buy a new car someday, and it could be dangerous and all that stuff. So that kind of brings us to our what do you think question. Why do you think it costs so much money for Sweden to switch to driving on the right?
Are you changing the steering wheels maybe?
You would probably after a few years, yeah. Any new cars would have to have the steering wheel on the other side.
What else would they change that would cost so much money?
Think about all the signs they would have to change.
Yeah.
Every single sign would have to be moved to the other side of the road, and painting all the streets, all those arrows would have to be different. And then, of course, the government would probably have to buy a whole bunch of new trucks and buses and things that they use, right? So there would be a lot of special expenses and costs because you'd basically have to reorganize your whole highway and road system.
It'd take a few years.
It costs a lot of money. And imagine all the angry people are like, why are we doing this? You know, but I guess there's a reason. I'd love to know why Sweden decided to do that in 1967. I didn't know that, and I'm sure there was a reason why, but I can't imagine what it is. All right, guys, well, thanks for joining us. Drive safely no matter what side of the road you find yourself on, and also be careful when getting out of cars. You never know when something crazy might happen on the roads. It's best to be safe all the time. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here very soon. Until then, bye-bye.
在1908年 ，Henry Ford 亨利·福特他的福特汽车公司推出了 Model T 这款 T 型车，改变了一切。为了方便乘客下车走到人行道，那车的驾驶座是在左侧，然后呢，这款车就是靠道路的右侧行驶。就像我们搭计程车，你要下车的时候，这个车子是靠右边，你才会方便乘客从右侧下车嘛。如果从左侧下车，可能就会被后面的来车给撞到，这个车门可能还会被扯掉之类的。Mike 老师这时候用到 rip off， 这个 rip 是拼作 RIP，rip off 可以指扯掉、撕掉的意思。好，那课文单字 passenger 它表示乘客，那么 exit 它可以当动词表达离开、离去、出去，也可以当名词来指出口。好，那么课文最后写到说，一旦选定了靠哪边行驶之后，人们就会逐渐习惯这个选择。那如果你经过很久之后再换边，会很困难。这一切要重新整顿安排的成本是很高昂的，用路人也会很困惑。Mike 老师用到 reorganize， 在 organize 前面加上 re， 变成重组、改造、重新安排的意思。那么 confusing， confusing 则是形容令人困惑的。那这边3个重点，我们进入文法时间。好，我们来看这个重点 ，in order to 加原形动词，或者是 to 加原形动词，可以表达为了什么什么，用来表达做某事的目的。那这个部分它可以摆在子句之前或是之后。我们就来看2个例句哦。Vicky swims every day to stay in shape。为了维持健康 ，Vicky 每天游泳。In order to stay in shape, Kevin works out as often as possible. 为了维持健康 ，Kevin 尽可能经常健身。好，那下一个重点是 get used to 或者是 be used to， 后面接名词或动名词，这是表达习惯于什么什么。当我们用 get used to 和 be used to 两者的些微差别就在于 get 是强调逐渐习惯于什么的动作，那么 be 动词则是用于只习惯于什么什么的状态的那种意思。举例来说 ，Henry is getting used to the weather here。Henry 逐渐习惯了这里的天气了。He's used to taking a shower in the morning. 他习惯早上冲澡。下一个重点，我们来看到现在完成式 have 或是 has 加上过去分词 PP。好，那现在完成式呢是用来表示某个动作或是状态到现在为止已经持续或是存在一段时间了。那它常常就会搭配 for 加一段时间，或者是搭配 since 加主词加上过去式动词，或者是 since 直接加上一个过去时间点。假设 John 和 Amber 在2009年相遇，那到现在已经认识13年咯。我们就来造句 John and Amber have known each other since 2009. John 和 Amber 从2009年就认识彼此了。 They have known each other for 13 years. 他们已经认识13年喽。好，那以上是这些讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
In the 1800s, it became law in Britain to drive on the left. In France, Napoleon chose the right. In each country's colonies, people drove on their ruler's preferred side. Therefore, former British colonies such as Australia, New Zealand, and India drive on the left, and French colonies drive on the right. In Japan, left-side driving goes back to the country's first trains. A British company completed Japan's first railway in 1872, so trains ran on the left. Streetcars and automobiles soon followed. In 1908, Henry Ford's Model T changed everything. To help passengers exit onto sidewalks more easily, the car's driver's seat was placed on the left, and the car was driven on the right-hand side of the road. Countries such as Canada, Italy, and Spain soon adopted right-side driving. Sweden began driving on the right quite late, in 1967, at a cost of $120 million. Once a driving side is chosen, people get used to the choice. As we can see in countries like Sweden, it's very difficult and expensive to change sides after too much time has passed.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephen.
I'm Jamie.
We're going to play a game called Guess the Bear. Each of us has 3 words or phrases on these cards with 2 sentence examples for each. We're going to read these sentences, but instead of saying the word, we're going to say the word bear instead. And you have 3 minutes to guess 1 minute to guess all 3. Are you ready? I almost gave you extra time. Go! All right, this is a noun. Number 1, bears should stay seated while the seatbelt light is on. Number 2, the bears demanded a refund for the late train.
The people, the customers? Oh, what? Okay, say again.
Bears should stay seated while the seatbelt...
passengers.
There you go. Okay, this is a noun. Number 1, the first bear was a Ford Model A. Number 2, the bear industry continues to grow every year.
Car? Automobile?
Oh, there you go. Okay, this is a phrase, 3 words. Number 1, the weather was hot, but I bear it. Number 2, it's hard work, but you bear it eventually.
Is it get used to?
Very nice. Wow, you went through those quite quickly. I guess you were ready for it. You didn't need the 3 minutes
I didn't.
that I was going to give you. Automobile was, I would have said car as well.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, are
Good
you
job.
ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's go. 1 word, noun.
Okay.
The Plymouth Bear was founded in 1620, and English settlers created bears in America.
Settlement.
Similar-
Colony.
Yes, colony, good. Okay, 1 word, adverb. It's raining today. Bear, the picnic is canceled. He didn't call me back. Bear, he must be busy.
Therefore.
Yes, wow. Phrase, 3 words. She got another job. Bear, pay for her vacation. And bear, see a doctor. You need to fill out these forms.
Prior to, no, before.
She got another job. Bear, pay for her vacation.
So she could. One more time. Read that sentence.
She got another job. Bear, pay for her vacation. And bear, see a doctor. You need to fill out these forms.
Before.
In order to.
In order
so
to.
she got another job in order to pay for her vacation, and in order to see a doctor, you need to fill out these forms.
I probably could have gotten that if I had 3 minutes.
Yeah. You're kind of close.
You should have given me extra time. You won. Are you happy?
See you next time.